friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge. Today we're taking a look at this knife. This is the Spyderco SQUEAK model C154xx for the black. They've also got a sprint run titanium version with LMAX steel, which is quite hard to find, although I did find stores in Europe that have it still in stock. A little bit expensive. It's in their Slip It series, so it's a slip joint knife. We've got Bowler N690 steel on here, wire clip, 3-finger grip, 4 fingers if you've got small hands. I can squeeze 4 fingers onto this grip if I want to. So, but then my thumb has to be up here. So this kind of grip, it's a nice 3-finger grip. Very, very functional, very useful for its size. It's a knife that I really like to have on me. How good is it? Is it worth the price? You decide after you watch what I've got to say about it. Stick around. The full review is coming right after this one commercial break that I allow YouTube to interrupt my videos with. Only once, not every 3 minutes like some channels. So it's time to review the SQUEAK. Keep watching. So here it is, looking good. Let's do a size comparison, but not with the Ontario Rat 1 anymore, or even the Rat 2. I've got a Sanrenmu 7010. This one's got G10 on it, and it's also quite a bit bigger of a knife than the SQUEAK. I really like this small knife. It's a very good size, very convenient to carry if you want a small knife. Of course, it's a locking knife, so it's not really comparable to the SQUEAK. Tip down pocket clip, which some people don't really like, which I don't mind at all, especially on a little knife like this. Wonderful little knife. If you cannot afford a SQUEAK and you're allowed locking knives, this might be the small knife that you really want. I reviewed them quite a while ago. They're still available. They used to be, when I started this channel, they used to be under $10 US. Now they're getting close to double that. So yeah, they're a little bit harder to find. The SQUEAK here, Bowler N690, they're calling it N690 CO, which is just another alias of Bowler N690. Maybe they're trying to make it look more special, more unique or something, I don't know. Made in Italy, so right there it says Manigo-Italy. And there's Sal Glesser's designer mark. You've got that leaf shape. There's Spyderco hole there, full flat grind. We've got the half forward choil right here, which is quite nice. The jipping's very good on it. It's big enough for my extra large hands to get a finger in there. And then the same kind of jipping up on the thumb right there. This is a very secure grip. When you're holding this knife, even though it's a 3-finger and 1 thumb kind of grip, it's a very secure hold, and yeah, nothing's going to be pulling this thing out of your hand. The handle here, FRN, that's fiberglass reinforced nylon. Good quality. It sometimes feels cheap, but this fiberglass reinforced nylon doesn't feel bad at all. They've got sort of a hash mark pattern in there for texture. They've got their Spyderco Spidey logo right there. It's a multifunction smooth logo because the pocket clip ends up putting the pressure that goes on to your pants pocket right at that spot. If it was over the textured area, it would pull hard on the fabric and make it a little bit harder for the knife to come in and out of your pocket. I really like the Spyderco wire pocket clip. I wish they would have made it just a little bit smaller on this knife. It's not terrible, but it's bigger than it needs to be. It stands out from the knife a little bit more than it needs to be. The good things about it, it's a flat top right there, rounded, so very comfortable in hand. It doesn't really hurt. Let's demonstrate it going into a pocket. Coin pocket is plenty big enough for this. So like I showed, focus is just a little bit off, isn't it? I'm going to take the camera up a little bit. There we go. It might be moving around now because I'm balancing it on my chest. So the pocket clip rides over, wants to go in, and it goes in all the way. You just have a little bit sticking out. Of course, if you've got the pink one, it'll be very flashy. Or you might not be aware, there is a sprint run version of this. I couldn't find any of them left in America, but there is some in Europe. The sprint run is titanium for the handle and LMAX for the blade. Talking more about the blade now. Like I said, it's leaf shaped, so it's all belly all the way along. The tip is okay for doing, some more precise work because, that is about a 70-degree angle change between the spine and the blade. So the tip is decent enough to do some fine stuff. I don't understand this. We've got a plunge that is rounded but very short. But it looks like they sort of wanted to put a sharpness choil in there. But it's super tiny and, look at this close-up. It's a mess. So I'm going to be putting in a better sharpness choil in there. I don't know yet for sure if I'm going to be keeping this knife or not, but whoever gets this knife next, if I sell it or keep it, deserves to have a little better sharpness choil than that in there. Other than that, I really like that it's a full flat grind. Slices well. We'll talk about the sharpness. They did a very poor job sharpening this knife. But that's not that big a deal. It can be fixed quite easily. By the way, my opinion on Böhler N690, some people think it's a premium steel. In my opinion, no, it's not. It's not even a mid-grade steel, in my opinion. It's a budget steel. It's, knocking on becoming a mid-grade steel. So it's sort of in that transition area between budget steel and mid-range steels. And that makes this knife a little overpriced. They expect you to pay more by having it made in Italy. I think it's a little more expensive than it needs to be. So what is the price on this thing? This thing is $59.50 in most stores. The pink one is $66.50. So yeah, the price is a little bit up there. On White Mountain Knives, you get 10% off of that. That makes it about $53.55 and $59.85 for the pink. It's a slip joint, so no matter where you buy it, if you're a Canadian, this will cross the border and come into Canada, no problem at all. So if you want to buy it from White Mountain Knives, then go for it. The discount gets you the discount. If you're not going to use the discount code, well, then it's about the same price. If you're in America and you don't like White Mountain Knives, you can get it from Amazon for pretty much the same price. I've got those links down below. And I've got links for 3 or 4 different places down below for European purchasers. So hopefully that helps you guys out a little bit. It's a slip joint. The half stop is really good. The spring holds it closed when it's supposed to be closed. So that's very good. You can open it one-handed. Put your thumb in the hole and work it out so it's easy to deploy one-handed. It's a little bit harder to safely close one-handed until you get used to it because that back spring is putting a lot of pressure and you have to push, 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 and then it lets go. And if you're pushing too hard and you get your fingertip in front here like this, you're going to slice it off, or at least slice into it. So yeah, decent knife. Now let's take a few moments to take a look at it taken apart. So here it is. There's the wire clip. Quite nice. The FRN. There's no washers in here, but there is a built-up section right there where it behaves like a washer. Here's some close-up shots of that piece. It's a very good design, so it's not spread out everywhere across the whole ricasso and everything. It's just on that small area, so very much like a washer. Here's the back spring, back spacer, all in one piece. 2 screws hold it in place. And it looks a lot like a back lock or a lock back. There's a little milled out section right there. They used like a round cutting bit, but that creates a flat spot or the equivalent of a flat spot. And then all the way closed, it's almost looking like it's supposed to be locked in there, but the back of this lock arm here is rounded instead of squared off. So the hole on the blade here is sort of squared out but because it's rounded on the back spring, it slides out with just a little bit of extra pressure. And so that's how the thing's designed. Very, very simple, easy to use. A little bit tricky to put back together because there's tension on that back spring. It's best to get these back two bolts in the right hole there. Let's just get this out of the way here. They've got flat spots on the back here, so they have to be lined up just right. There we go. And get these in there. There we go. Clickety click. And get some screws in there. Whoa, hit the camera. Not making these tight, just putting them in the right spot. All right, now, see, this wants to sit proud here. You have to bring it back and get it on there. This can get tricky to put together because you basically need 3 fingers, 3 hands. There we go. So I had to push down on it while I was straightening everything out. And now I can just put the screw back in. And then I will adjust how tight those screws go. So yeah, pretty decent the way it works. Let's take a look at all the sizes, dimensions, and things. Hopefully I'll remember to take this off of the screen when I'm finished the dimensions. The weight of this knife, 45 grams, 1.55 ounces. The factory sharpness measured right about the middle of the belly here, 145 bests. That's considered sharp. The cutting edge length, 44.5 millimeters, 1.752 inches. The blade length tipped to the closest spot on the FRN handle scales, 50 millimeters on the nose, 1.9685 inches. So they call it a 2-inch knife. Yeah, it's very close to 2 inches. The blade thickness measured on the flat of the ricasso here, 2.85 millimeters. That's 0.1115 inches, so a bit under 1/8 of an inch. The blade depth at the widest working area right here, 27.8 millimeters, 1.0945 inches. The thickness of the edge behind the grind measured right about in the middle, 0.48 millimeters, 19 thousandths of an inch. So that's good. I like how thin that is. The grind angle. Now, I'm just going to call it, it's about 19 degrees on one side and about 23 degrees on the other side at the very middle. But what it really is about 23 degrees back here and 16.3 degrees up here. And it changes as you go along. And this side is 19.1 degrees at the tip down to 27.2 degrees, and it changes all the way along. So when you go to sharpen this knife, yeah, you're going to have to choose whatever angle you want and be careful along the whole thing. For a while, you'll probably be sharpening on the bevel part of the blade, and sometimes you're going to be sharpening right at the apex of the cutting edge. Now let's talk about the handle. The handle length is 78.2 millimeters. That's 3.0785 inches. The grip area, and I'm including the forward choil here because that's pretty integral on this guy. It's about 8 centimeters, about 3 inches. So a good 3-finger grip, even if you've got extra large hands. The handle thickness, not counting the pocket clip or the protruding button screws, it is 9.3 millimeters, 0.366 of an inch. The handle depth, the widest spot in your grip, is right here, 26.1 millimeters, 1.0275 inches. In your pocket, the widest spot is right here, 35 millimeters, 1.378 inches. And the total length of this knife when it's deployed is 127.9 millimeters, 5.035 inches. So yeah, decent sized knife, feels really good in the hand. It's functional. It's a good user knife if you are in a place where people are afraid of knives. Pulling this thing out should not scare people. It's a good knife for a lot of tasks. It's not a long enough blade for slicing up your apple at lunchtime. You might want to get something else for that. Maybe something like this. But for a lot of tasks, this is more than good enough for probably 80% of the EDC tasks that you're going to face in any given day if you're in an urban setting. What are the other pros and cons? Really nice jimping. I like that. When your hand is on the knife, even though it's a slip joint, it can't close over your finger because that acts like a guard. Your finger is blocking the knife from closing onto you, so it's very safe to use. The wire clip, very nice. I like that. I mentioned I'd like it to be a little smaller. I'm not fond of button screws, but these are all T8 Torx screws, so I like that. I just wish they would have used flat screws. Even on the back here, these are buttons. What happens is, right at the edge of the screw where it meets the FRN handle scales, that becomes a dirt and dust collection zone. Whereas if they were flat, it wouldn't be, a little trap for stuff. Especially on this side, it's even deeper in that area by those screws. So at this price, they could have put in good flat screws like a lot of other companies do. Even Sanrenmu makes knives that cost a third as much that have those really nice screws on them. What are the cons? They did a poor job sharpening this. They did a terrible job with the sharpener's choil. If they didn't want a sharpener's choil, then they did a terrible job, terminating the sharpening right at the end. So yeah, the sharpening's terrible, but it's really good that it's nice and thin, so it's easy to sharpen up very nicely so that you've got that perfect edge. The only other con for this is I think it's a bit overpriced. I think they wanted to put Italy on the name so that people would be willing to pay more, even though it isn't really worth more. I think this is at $39 US, I think that would be the top of the market for me. Although, I did buy this, but it's because people were asking me to review more Spyderco knives, and I like slip joint knives especially. This is good the world round. There's very few places where this would not be a legal carry, so it's a nice knife. I have not decided yet if I'll be keeping this or if I'll be selling it, but I have decided I will be doing a knife sale probably the first full week of next month of March 2021. If you'd like to become a Patreon supporter of the channel, you guys get 48 hours notice of the sales, or access to the sales, I should say. So that's why usually 2/3 of the knives that I put in my sales, they're sold by the time the public has access to it, like just regular subscribers and others. Another benefit of becoming a Patreon supporter is you get your name into a draw for one of the knives that I reviewed in the previous month. Every single month your name gets entered into that draw. You can only win once per year, but hey, them odds are very good when there's only 42 Patreon supporters. I wish I had way more supporters, but 1 out of 42 odds every month, that's not bad at all. If you're in the market for a little knife like this, like I said, I've got links down below to make it easy for you to get them. Please use my coupon code CCE for if you're shopping at either White Mountain Knives in the United States or at integrityknives.com in Canada. I've also got a coupon code for Power Cutlery down below. And if you use my Amazon links, you do help out the channel. So there's so many ways that you can help me out without it costing you any money. In fact, I can save you money. So I appreciate any help that you give me in return. Doing things like liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, those things all help. And remember, friends, cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Bye for now.